What's the balance between, especially on punt return, well, any returns, not putting yourself in a position where you might turn it over versus being aggressive and going with it?
So, obviously that's been a source of frustration throughout the course of this whole year. And, we've given up a lot of hidden yardage just by letting the ball hit the ground. One of our number one objectives is to field all kicks. Like going in, the mentality and the mindset is to field all kicks to prevent the hidden yardage that happens. Now, you got to be a good decision maker. The UMass example where their ball is kind of spraying all over the field, if you don't feel like you can field it cleanly, our number one team objective every week is to own the football. So we want the offense to have the next snap no matter what. So we're going to make sure that happens. With that being said, that's where the judgment comes into play. Within reason, we want to field all kicks. There was 2 balls for sure that hit the ground the other day that we absolutely need to field. The last kick, give credit where it needs to have. They roll punted, they kicked it back across the field, they were trying to keep it out of his hands. Of course, we don't want to give up the yardage, but if he didn't feel comfortable going to get it, obviously we'd prefer to have the ball versus diving. Now, get on top of it so the clock stops rolling. That's a critical piece of it. But, so there is a fine line in terms of that decision-making process. But at the end of the day, we try to educate our guys to the best of our ability throughout the course of the week, put them in those situations as often as possible, and then let them make those decisions on game day. Because if I start telling them you have to field everything, we're going to start making some bad decisions back there as well.
I guess with 2 return guys back there, then you're losing a blocker. I mean, are there some disadvantages of trying to outthink what another team is doing?
Well, so for example, just contrast the 2 weeks. UMass, we had 3 returners back there, and the ball was still hitting the ground. So, I mean, we can't put any more than the 3 guys that we had back there in the UMass game. Last week, Clemson had not showed to ever kick back across the field. So that wasn't really part of the game plan. Good job by them in a situation to be able to go execute it that way. So yes, if the situation dictates, 2 returners are always an option. 3 returners were an option a couple weeks ago. That really wasn't part of the thought process at the end of the game the other day, just because it hadn't been something that they had shown to do, and we wanted to present a look that forced the look that we got and force them to roll out. And we had kind of a wall return set up going the other way. And if it had been a ball that we could return, we would have had an opportunity to play.
How hard is that to execute?
It's just something that Alex obviously can do it. You have to have confidence in your punter, because anytime you're kicking back across the field, you do expose yourself a little bit if the ball is mishit. So, it's something that you have to have confidence in that kicker that he's going to be able to get it on the ground and locate it where it needs to go. And some kickers have more of an ability to do that than others.
There were 3 missed field goals in terms of these 2 field goals. You guys were aggressive going after. Do you think that made an impact in kind of dictating the way that they kicked the ball?
I definitely do. I thought Jarvis did a really good job coming off the edge on the first missed field goal. He almost got there, but there was really good push inside as well. And I do think that forces when a kicker feels the pressure of the rush. I do think that can force a little bit of timing miscues. And once you get someone to miss one time, now it's on, because it gets in your head a little bit, and it can. And that was obviously critical in the game. That was 9 points taken off the board that I think was a direct credit to an early rush. On a great job by Jarvis, but really good job of guys pushing in the middle.
On the last punt return, I'm sure there's pros and cons to every decision. Was there ever a conversation about sending 10 guys and being aggressive rather than returning in that regard?
Well, so you're kind of playing there was that conversation, but you're kind of playing the game with them, so what is their thought process? How are they going to approach it? And my thought is they're going to roll out punt, which is what they did. That's their most max protection. They're going to have 3 shield guys in front of the punter, and he's not going to gain any ground towards the line of scrimmage. He's just going to work for width. And in that situation, I didn't think that we had a better opportunity to set up a return off a block look as opposed to come with an all-out block, because I didn't think operationally they're being coached too. The punter's being, hey, get rid of the ball as quick as you can. And if they're not in a normal operation, that situation I think would be hard to go block again.
What happened on the block section?
Pressure up the middle. The ball is a little bit hard to tell just because of where it got blocked. If the trajectory was as good as it should have been, it might have been a little bit low. But they did come up the middle, very close in terms of the integrity of how the rule is called, because it was almost over the long snapper. We turned that play in. I haven't got a response. I'll leave that alone. But that is where your softest is over the long snapper, because he's not the one. Usually he's protected. And that's where it came from.
The play that Wayne had to get around the edge and just the rope off the ball. Is that something you guys were expecting of him? Just seeing him in practice, consistently doing those kind of things? Nothing he does game in, game out is a surprise, because he did the way in which he approaches practice. The other cool thing about that is, and I think you guys see it, I think you're in here for the part of practice, we do that turnover and takeaway circuit to start every practice. And one of the drills once a week is front side of the quarterback getting the ball out. Second part of the drill with Coach Woodson is the scoop and score part of it, and he was able to kind of piece all the drill work together. And anytime something like that happens, that also gives great validity for what you're doing in practice, and it creates better buy-in for all the other guys, because they're like, see, this drill that we're working over here with the strip, with recovery, scoop and score, that's all applicable. And obviously a critical part of the game, and a really good player making a really big play in a really big situation.
You and Coach Norvell both at your previous schools have always had so much success on special teams. So obviously this is disappointing, but have you had experiences like this where things just didn't, it seems like one thing after another's just gone wrong sometimes, even if you're prepared for it. Have you gone through something like this before?
I've had some times in my career, as a position coach, defense coordinator, special teams coordinator, where you feel like you're doing everything you can to prepare the right way, and for whatever reason, things are popping up, like you said, different things. We start the game off kicking the ball out of bounds. There's a lot of things that could have happened on that play, but kicking out of bounds wasn't one that I thought was going to show up there. Hasn't been close to doing that the whole year. So that's frustrating. You game plan the UMass game and say, we're going to put 3 returners back there. Never in my career put 3 returners back there, because we're not going to let the ball hit the ground. The ball hit the ground every play. And we fumble the opening kickoff return against UMass. Like, things, it's not always the same thing, but a lot, when you look at it from I always look at it like this. After the fact, if I had it all to do over again, what would I do differently in that given situation in the week of preparation? And if I can look at the week, because believe me, no matter what is said by anybody, I'm my biggest critic. I always will be. And if I can look at it at the end of the week and say, I don't know that I would have done X, Y, and Z different, then you learn from the mistakes and you move on. If you look at it and say, you know what, I really screwed that up, then you've got to figure out and do some soul searching why that happened. But most of the things that have showed up from a special team standpoint, I felt really good about throughout the course of the week. They haven't played out in the game at times. Some of it's physical execution, and you do your best to try to prepare guys to go out there and perform at a high level, because that's what this game is about from a coaching standpoint. You try to put your guys in the best position to be successful as often as they possibly can, and it's kind of like your own kids, and then at some point you got to let them go and go do their thing, and hope that the lessons that you taught throughout the course of the week have prepared them to be successful on Saturdays.
Against UMass, Marcus comes off the bench, has a sack and a half. This past week, Derek and Quayshawn both hit some impactful plays. To get those guys in the mix during this final stretch, I guess how essential is that going to be for you guys when you continue that?
To play at a high level on the defensive front, you need to play multiple guys. And we're fortunate to have kind of a group that I feel good that from week to week we can create some opportunities for them to go and play. Quayshawn played 12 plays, and he felt his impact in the game. Derek played primarily on third down, and I thought he did some really good things when he was in there on third down. Cush didn't play as much this week, but I thought the matchup kind of suited a little bit more for Derek and Quay. And I thought they were able to take some quality reps in the second half, to take some things off Jermaine and Kier, and give us a chance to have the guy, our starting guys on the field at the end of the game when we need it.
One more question about defense. Coach Fuller yesterday said, even though the defense was put in some tough situations, like even at the end of the game with the penalties, the job is to win the game, to finish the game. Like, is that a mentality, or is that just being able to? Is the next step just handling execution in those moments?
I think from a from a coaching perspective, you want it to translate to the players, and from like just a competitive team aspect, if you're in position to do a job, it doesn't, all the circumstances that kind of are around it are irrelevant. The bottom line was, as well as I feel like we played for most of the game defensively, we had a lead with 3.5 minutes to go in the game. And if you had told me going in, you got the lead with 3.5 minutes to go get a stop, I don't care what the circumstance would have been. We got to go get the stop. And, there were a couple penalties that came up. Okay, so what? We got to go get a stop. And we didn't do that. And, that part is disappointing because we had the opportunity to go out and win the game defensively, and that didn't happen. So, we don't ever look at it, well, they would have done this or if he would have done that, because you control what you can control. And for us, we look at it that you got the lead, you go on the field defensively, you go win the game. That's it.